Hi, I'm Larry and welcome to my studio. Today is part 2 of the project that I'm calling Waiting for Breakfast. We've got 3 little doves sitting here on a fence, and one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to do a separate demo so that I can make it big enough and you can see what it is. So what I've done is that I've just underpainted another bird just like I had on the original, and then I'm going to work from here. It'll be a little bit bigger so that the camera will pick it up a little bit better. I'm also going to take this part of this demo and put it out as a separate techniques and tips. So if you need to go and look at it, look for the one on doing birds and feathers. Also, if you're wanting to paint along, please go to the website or the blog spot where you'll find the links for the reference photo and the drawing for this. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me at my email that I will have at the end of this part. So thank you. Let me refocus and I'll get right back to it. All right, here I've got my bird that I have underpainted. And when you were underpainting, you want to make sure that your strokes are going along the same direction as... This is just water on my brush, by the way. This is not paint. But you want to follow the shape of the bird. I've dabbed this as I've painted so that there's where my brush strokes are, they kind of create the suggestion of feathers. Some of these I will put in some shadows to make them a little more prominent. Others I'm just going to leave, maybe put a little highlight on them, and that's all. Your brush strokes matter, so when you're painting something, be sure that you're following the direction of growth, whether it's a bird, an animal, even trees, grass. You know, think about what you're painting and make sure that your brush strokes follow that growth. Okay, so I've got 2 things. I've got the bird here, and then I've got this section over here which is a little bit bigger. This is a flat sable brush that I'll be using, at least to start with. I may switch to a round brush, but do most of it with this. Now I'm going to mix up a highlight, and I'll start over here so that you can see what I'm doing. This is actually a larger version of something I have in one of my projects. And if you're doing that project, this is just so that you don't have to keep looking for the part where I've done this. So, you know, everybody likes to do animals, or at least a lot of people like to do animals. I'm just mixing up some burnt sienna, little burnt umber, little blue, and some gesso, which I use as white, to make kind of a warm, soft gray. Now let me test it up here. Maybe a little more white. Now I have above me, this is from the project, and I'm kind of doing this bird right here. And so I'm looking at it, I have it right where I can see it. So I can see, 1, what I'm doing, and 2, what colors I might need. And also, and I started to do this because I just kind of, you know, do this on my own. But if you have any questions about where your feathers are, you can come in and suggest them here. Just remember that these feathers kind of overlay each other. So when you're putting them down, make sure that you they kind of, like if this were one feather, another feather comes in on top of it here and another feather on top of it there. That helps them when they're flying and also to shed water when it rains. So you know, just be aware of that. That's where the brush strokes come in, because these brush strokes can create these feathers without too much trouble. I'm not going to do all of them. I'm just going to do some of them. And then over here, because I wanted to start over here to show you what I'm doing. And for right now, I'm not going to worry about the dots or any coloration on the bird. But I'm just going to take this and just kind of follow the wing, or not the wing, but the feather in. And this is just highlight. So I'm just going to pull that in, and I'm kind of pulling up on it. So I'm not covering up all of that underpainting. That underpainting is really important. I'll keep saying that as I'm giving my lessons, because a lot of people don't realize just how important that underpainting is. The underpainting becomes texture, it becomes shadow, variation in color. Things are not homogeneous, and what I mean, one solid color. They have variations. Okay, so that's all I'm going to be doing on this. I just picked up a little bit more water. I have to mix up the color again, which is a little burnt sienna, a little burnt umber, little blue, gesso. Test it up here. Need a little more. I want it kind of on the gray side, so I'm adding more umber and yeah, okay. So this is just like the next layer. Now these are kind of on their side. You're seeing the side of the feather here. And sorry, when I kind of zone out, I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. Sometimes just a little suggestion is all you need. I check up on my reference. So that I know what I'm doing and what I'm trying to accomplish. Now, what I'll probably do is I'll take a little break here in a minute, and I'll do some more of these feathers. It gets a little bit repetitious. But I do want you to realize that when it goes around the bird, the feathers change, and they also change color. These over here are a little bit darker, so I just add a little more blue and umber and just pulling up on those. But when I break away, I'm not going to do anything that I haven't shown you, and if I manage to do it anyway, I will tell you what I did. I want you to understand what I'm doing here. So I added just a little bit of white to that. And I'm using kind of the side of my brush. Okay, so I'm going to break away right now, and I'm going to kind of finish out some of these other feathers, and then I'll come back and show you about these wing feathers and some of this other stuff down here. So I'll be right back. Okay, as you can see, I have come in and added some more feathers. Remember, this is still underpainting. I have not gotten to any detail work yet. This is just, I call it the terminal uglies, where it looks like there's no hope for something. But if you just keep working at it and getting your underpainting done, you're going to find that all of a sudden it starts to look like something. So I'm going to come down here and mix up a color that's mostly my burnt umber, a little blue, some of that previous tan color. I don't want it real dark, but I do want it a little bit darker because I'm going to be working on these wing feathers right here. And they're a little bit darker. And I'm gonna, this is a number 4 or number 2 flat sable brush. I'm going to be using the corner of it. So I'm just going to put that down and press and pull. Okay, these are the little feathers that are above it. And some of those are dark. Let's try this down here. Press and pull. Press and pull. Press and pull. And I'm kind of making a U shape. Press and pull. I think I'm going to make that just a little bit darker. A little more umber, a little more blue. Not quite as much of that gray. Pull it all the way there. Touch more blue. Because over on the other side, it's in shadow over here. Pull that up. It's always darkest right underneath something. So I want to get that a little bit darker as these wing feathers come out from under these other feathers. And just pull them. I'm going to add just a touch of white. I add more than a touch of white. Talking and painting are not necessarily things that go well together. But as I've learned over the past 14-15 years of painting, you know, you're going to make mistakes. Don't worry about it. Just accept the fact that you're going to make something that you don't like. With acrylics, it's so easy. You just paint it out. I'm going to add a little touch of orange to this color that I just mixed up, because as I'm looking at the feathers on the wings, I see some orange. So right in here, touch and pull, touch and pull. Touch, touch and pull, touch and pull, touch and pull. And there's some of that in here. Now I'm just kind of scattering some of this color because it is in this bird. Bird's got a lot of yellow or orange in it, sometimes even a little bit of red, so I can put that color in. And notice how, you know, here I'm kind of going this way. When I come up here, the bird body is going around, so I want to make sure that I'm pulling those around. Now down here on the tail, just adding a bit more of my gesso, which is white, and a little touch more of orange. And if I get too much paint on my brush, I can always wipe it out, because this is kind of a dry brush technique. And I'm just going to kind of skim the surface here as the tail goes up in under the feathers up there. Just want to skim this just to suggest that there's some tail feathers in there. That you don't really see the individual tail feathers in this photograph. Up here on his head, there's some of this. A little more orange to it. Kind of using the end of my brush to create that fuzzy look. These birds were sitting out there waiting for my sister to throw out their breakfast, and it was winter time and they were all puffed up, so these birds are a little puffier, so they'll have more shadows in their feathers, more texture in their feathers because they are puffy. Now if they're, you know, in a different climate or a different situation, they may not be as puffy as that. Okay, so I'm going to show you up here on this one what I'm going to be doing, and I think for that I'm going to use a different brush. This is just a small round brush. It says it's a number 2. What I find problematic is that different manufacturers will give different numbers to, you know, this may be a number 4 or a number 6 in another manufacturer, or, you know, it just, they don't have a consistent thing. So, like dress sizes, you know, they vary from manufacturer. So what I'm mixing down here is my ultramarine blue and a little touch of alizarin crimson and a little touch of burnt sienna. That burnt sienna is just in there to kind of gray the color. And there's just a little bit of lighter, that lighter gray that I was using, so it's not real black. But, you know, I'll come back and I'll do some of this on here, but I want to show you what I'm going to do. Where there's a feather that's sticking up, it's going to cast a little bit of a shadow. If you put the paint down and then just kind of rub that outside edge and pull it down, or like this one dried real quick, you can kind of just lightly dry brush and create a shadow. This helps you form the feathers. This is really negative painting because I'm painting what's underneath rather than painting the actual feather. Like I'm trying to create this feather, I'm going to paint, well, now I'm doing that feather. I'm painting under it here, painting under this one there, and then lightly blurring that. Yeah, just tiny touch water. Be careful with water because it will make it too thin if you're not careful. I'm going to suggest a feather here just by adding a little touch of paint. Maybe another one there. So I'm going to be doing, this is kind of small, even this is kind of small. So I'll be doing some of this to create some texture. And I will be right back. You can see what I've done here. I've done just a little bit of the shadowing under here. And I haven't done all of it. Now if you have some chalk marks, like I've still got some chalk marks, you can take your paper towel and just wet it a little bit, not real wet, but just wipe off the chalk marks if those bother you. It doesn't hurt anything. I'll leave some of them because I'm not done with them yet. But sometimes the chalk marks can be a bother. Now another brush that you can use if you're wanting to do a little bit more finer detail is this little liner brush. There's another tips and techniques on using this little brush. The biggest part is loading it. You want to have your paint very ink-like, and I wish I had a second camera that I could focus down on my palette, but right now I do not. But what I'm doing is I'm adding water and I'm rolling it around, rolling my brush around in this, and it's just it's almost like India ink. I'm gonna roll it. I'm starting my clock here. There we go. And then you can, if you need to, just kind of get some of the excess paint out of it. I'm going to roll it here and just kind of form a nice point to it. And just come and suggest some of these feathers. Don't have to do it all. You don't want to do all of the work for your viewer, but you can come in and just suggest. We're kind of illusionists as artists. We're just creating the illusion of something. So don't be afraid to come in and just, now I'm bracing this hand on my other hand. When you get old, your hands get shaky. So you can just do a little bit of this. Add detail is a personal thing. If you want a lot of detail, then that's up to you. If you don't want a lot of detail, that's also up to you. And I'm going to come down into these feathers here. I'm going to go back to this is my number 4 flat sable brush. And I want to come in with the blue, the burnt sienna, little white, touch of the alizarin crimson. I can come up here and just suggest some of these little feathers here. You know, use a size brush that works best for the situation. Don't break out your well, I shouldn't say don't, but try not to break out your little brushes right off the bat, because the bigger brushes will give you a little more, it's more spontaneity. You know, it doesn't look, you get really tight, you know, in your painting. Okay, let's see. Want to get a little bit more dark over here. And up under some of these. And I'm just going to kind of pull, just take my finger and just kind of pull that out. I'm started out in watercolor, so some of what I do tends to be a little more from my watercolor experience, but it doesn't make it wrong. You know, whatever works. I'm a for whatever works for you type of painter. Come back here with my little liner brush and just do some suggestions here of okay, so have that, and let's see, sometimes I go back and forth. I picked up the sable brush again, going back down kind of in that. It's going to be kind of a more watery color right in here, just little touches of that gray. Now what I want to do now is I want to add some more highlights, a brighter highlight. And if you want to go to a smaller brush, like this is my number 2 flat sable, and that would work. I'm going to make a little bit lighter color. This time I'm going to use my gesso, little touch of burnt sienna, little touch of orange, maybe pick up some of that mud. I don't want it real bright. You know, these colors on these birds are kind of subtle. But this is going to be a lighter color, a little more burnt sienna, I think. You know, doing a study like this really helps you. Okay, so with this one, I'm just going to like go back up here so you can see. Just kind of pull it. Don't lose all of that other color that you put on there. This is just for like the parts that are sticking up, that might be catching a little bit of whatever light is around. And if it's a gray day, it may not be you know, a real bright color. It might be a little bit brighter. But that's all I'm going to be doing over here, is just adding a little bit of color. This kind of orange, I'm going to put a little more sienna in it. And I'm just going to come in. Right now I'm using just the side of the brush because I'm kind of just seeing the sides of feathers on this side because they've gone around the bird. And then as I come this way, I'll use the corner of the brush. Maybe soften it with my finger. Don't be afraid to get your fingers in this. Back and forth. I call my brush my multi-tool. My students have called them magic wands. But whatever you call them, they've got all surfaces. So don't be afraid to spin it around in your hand. Now, I really strongly recommend that, especially if you're a new painter, if you've never done feathers or fur or whatever before, take the time to do a little study like this. This will really help you, because we're all trying to paint our masterpiece. And if we don't know how to do something, I will do these for myself. If it's something I haven't done in a while, or if it's something I'm kind of questioning, I will stop and take and do something like this. I can paint this out. I've already painted this out once because I realized that you couldn't see what I was doing because I didn't have the camera in the right angle. So see, now the underpainting kind of becomes the shadows or texture in there. Come here, kind of add some more of that. Don't paint over everything that you've put up there. That becomes the texture, the highlight, or the shadows in it. I'm looking at my reference material. If you want to do the project, you can go to my blog spot and you'll find the link for the project and a drawing for this. So I'm going to kind of come and just lightly come down here. I'm going to add a little more orange, a little more burnt sienna. Kind of come up here and do these. Following the shape of the feathers. Blur out those edges. Beware of those hard edges. Okay, I'm going to take a little break, get this worked up a little bit more, and when we come back, or when I come back, I'll finish this up. So stay tuned. All right, now what I want to do is I want to get some of the finishing details on. Now, detail is kind of a matter of preference. I've mixed a dark color down here, which is, now I don't have black on my palette. I don't necessarily want it or use it, but what I do is I can use all of my dark colors. Mostly I use my ultramarine blue and either burnt umber or burnt sienna and a little bit of alizarin crimson, and it makes a really deep, rich dark rather than using black. Black I've always found to be kind of a color killer. So I try not to use it. Now, some of these birds have dots on their feathers, and you don't need to be exactly precise. I'm sure that each bird has its own spot pattern, but you just come in and add spots where you know, I'm just kind of looking. I've got 3 birds to look at, so I'm kind of picking out things that I see. This is my little round brush again. I'm going to use this color up here for the beak. Pick this color up and put the eye in. They have these little round eyes. Now be very aware when you're painting animals that they do not have people eyes. They have, you know, whatever species you know, bird eyes. They're different. There's all different shapes and sizes, different colors. The irises have different patterns, so be very aware of that. I'm going to come in and I'm just going to add a little dark there. I'm just going around right now and just kind of cleaning up some things with this dark. See, I've kind of got these feathers a little bit long, so I'll just take and cut them off. Now while that's drying, so that I can put some highlights in the eye and stuff, and I've also painted the feet in. That was just a little bit of alizarin crimson with some of the mud that's on my palette, just some of that blue and brown little gesso. And I'll come back and I'll highlight that. So same thing. I've still got that color, that alizarin crimson with a little bit of blue, a little bit of burnt umber, and I'm just adding some white to it. And this bird actually had his feet up underneath him, but I wanted to show you this. So I'm making little U strokes like this because their feet are rounded. Remember, you want to follow the shape of how something is growing. So if it's a round toe, you want to make it round. And I can take some of that dark color that I just had and kind of put a little shadow here under his feet. Maybe a toenail. Make sure I'm not in the picture here. Now I'm going to mix up another lighter color. It's going to be my gesso, which is white, and you can use titanium white. Titanium white just doesn't have the body that gesso has. Gesso is a more opaque color. And I'm just mixing up kind of a light cream color with this. Let me test this up here, because it has a little bit of color right around his eye. And I'm just lightly touching. I'm just letting the canvas take what it wants. There's a little bit of a highlight right here on its beak. Like that. A little bit more orange. Come down here on these flight feathers and just kind of drag it. Don't try to paint it so much. The feathers have got a little bit of texture to them, so it won't be nice and smooth. There's a lot of feathers that are all stacked up together here. You might find it easier to use your liner brush. I'm just going to suffer with this one since I want to get this done. Look back and forth. There's also a little bit of this color kind of on some of these. Each bird's going to have its own different pattern to it. Up here on the shoulder there's a little bit of lighter feathers right up in there. I'm going to take a little bit, I'm just sticking the brush right into the gesso and picking up kind of a glob of paint. And very lightly, I'm going to just touch the eye. Oops. Okay, I'm not going to panic. My goodness, what have I done? Just take and wipe it off. You know, it's okay. Nothing to see here. It's just, this is just water on my brush to kind of clean. I'm going to let that dry, so I'll go back and pick up some more of the orange, a little bit of burnt sienna. Get a little bit more color on his head, her head, because there's a little bit of color right through here. Now I'm doing this quick. I'm trying to get as much information to you, and so it may not be as perfect as I would like it, but you know, it's not too bad. Let me try it this way. Picking it up. This time I picked it up on the handle. Just lightly tap it, and then I'll leave it at that. So I hope that you have learned something. Take your time. You don't have to paint as fast as I do, but you know, you take your time and you do this, and you will learn a lot. You know, it's not something that's going to require a lot of sweating and thing when you're working on a little study like this. This is where you get to make your mistakes. This is where you get to learn. So please come back again, and remember that you should be calling your friends, your neighbors, your family, but most of all, keep painting, and I hope to see you again in class real soon. Thank you for watching.